Welcome everyone, my name is Comet and we just finished a very exciting weekend of LEC finals. We now know who is gonna be the representatives for the region at Worlds, and not only this, we also had the official draw for the play-ins of Worlds 2024. So I want to talk about that in this video, and more specifically, I want to talk about the play-ins because they're gonna start in just a few days, and I want to talk about what are the chances of Mad Lions Co performing well in the play-in. So let me show you right off the back, the draw, so that you guys can see what we have as their opponents, which is right here. This is the official draw for the play-ins of Worlds 2024, and you guys can see we have Mad Lions Koi just right here on the left side of the bracket. Now, four teams are gonna be able to go into the group stage. So the chances, are quite high. But let's see, how are they gonna be able to perform against each one of this team. Now, to prepare this video, I did watch the Vietnam finals, the PCS finals, and I'm watching, constantly the North American playoffs as well. So I have now, a good grasp on how these teams could perform. Although obviously, this is always hard to predict because each region plays completely different. But I will try my best, to give an objective description, of how each region has performed, and then I'm gonna give my opinion. So we can start, with the playstyle of Mad Lions Koi so that we can set up the rest of this video, which is Mad Lions Koi is a team that focuses a lot on prioritizing resources for their silence, whether it is Supa or Merwin. And this means, trying to give them as much farm as possible or as much team presence, with Elioya or Alvaro ganking these lanes. They want to do this as much as possible. Now, we have seen that during the season, they prefer to prioritize Supa over Mirwin. However, Mirwin is a much more clutch player than Supa, and every time that he has gotten ahead, he has just straight up carried this team. He did it in winter and he did it in the LEC finals. Every time that this dude is getting resources, he is the one who is gonna make sure that the game is gonna win. And we have seen this change also in the mindset of Mad Lions Koi because they tried to prioritize Supa for a full year, but at the end, they had to accept that Mirwin is their best player and they have to give him resources. And they got really good results from that. We have seen them even be able to beat G2 in the LEC final, something that not even BDS or Giants managed to do, and Fnatic definitely didn't do as well. Uh, Coming into the LC finals, right? So this is a team that has shown that they have great potential and has a very heavy focus, like I mentioned, on silence, or silent early game silent pressure. This means laning phase. Rotation so that they can get early game objectives and early game advantage, and also focusing a lot on getting picks in the game. Now, the downside of Mad Lions Koi is that they suffer a lot from macro. They have the same issue that Fnatic has. They do not know how to play the map. More specifically for Mad Lions Koi, they don't know how to play the map after the laning phase is over. They struggle a lot and they tend to think that getting more gold is usually the way to get advantage, which is not always the case. So that could be a hole for other teams to exploit. Now, their opponent is going to be Vikings. Now, Vikings is the second seed of Vietnam. And in playoff, it was clear that they were a huge step below Gigabyte Marines. Gigabyte Marines right here is the first seed of Vietnam, and they show that mechanically speaking and in terms of macro, they are a step above Vikings. But that does not mean that Vikings is not a team to be on the lookout for, because on the watch out, people really need to be aware that this is a region that fights as much as possible. Like every time that they see someone, boom, let's go in, let's go in, let's go in. No hesitation, no doubts, no question asked. And this means that this match is gonna probably be a bloodbath. You know, we have two teams that like to fight as much as possible in the early game, and then I think that whoever is gonna get advantage in the early game is gonna win. And for this reason, I think that stylistically, in terms of levels, I think that MDK has the advantage over Vikings for this match. That is at least what I think, because Vikings is definitely not a team that prioritizes objectives. They prioritize getting kills. So I think that Malen's Core is gonna be able to get advantage in the early game and then snowball from there. But again, remember, this is the world championship. Like, we cannot underestimate any team. So if Vikings were to win, I wouldn't be surprised, because they're a very aggressive team. But I do think that Myron's Koi, just through mechanics, because they are very consistent. It's not like other teams who pick at a 9 out of 10, and then the next match they are like a 3 out of 10. No, Lions Koi is a team that is very consistent at 7 and 8 out of 10. It's just that they do lack a lot of decision making and confidence sometimes in making their plays. But I do think that they have a very well structured early game plan. So I think that's going to be able to give them an advantage over Vikings. The early game plan plus the mechanics that they have, I do think that Vikings has the disadvantage right here. And I would say that MDK can win very easily in like a 2-0 fashion against Vikings. But just to be conservative, I would say that MDK is going to go to the next round as a as a yeah, I do think that MDK is gonna get into the next round, winning 2-1. That is what I think it's gonna go. On the other side, or just right below them rather, they have the PSG. Now PSG is the first seed of the PCS region, and they are facing the CBLOL first seed, which is Brazil first seed. Now, PSG, we have seen what they're capable of doing at MSI. They took the Chinese first seed Bilibili game into a game 5. They eliminated the North American second seed FlyQuest in play-ins. And however, they did struggle against G2, but that G2 at MSI has probably been the best version of G2 that we have ever seen in the past 4 years, really. So despite them losing to G2, they showed that they have a really good level, because that G2 also took T1 to a game 5. So that just because they lost to G2, that does not really make them a bad team. If anything, the fact that they took the Chinese first seed to a game 5 and then eliminated NA second seed and play-ins, that makes them a very dangerous team. And in my eyes, the PSG, when I was watching the PCS finals, this is a team. This is a team that has some heavy macro, man. Now, for a bit of a background, for those of you that don't know much about the PSG, and PSG and the PCS region in general is a region that have access to scrim with Vietnam, with Chinese teams, and with Korean teams. In fact, a lot of times we have heard people, or like teams like EDG, Royal Gaming, in the past, or teams like T1, or Genji mentioned that when all of the other teams have finished their season, but they are still in playoff, they usually scream with PSG for their help, So this is a team that has heavy macro, man. Like, these dudes play the map really fucking well. I would say they play the map equivalently, or perhaps I would say equivalently to how G2 plays the map. And G2 has really good macro. But they do have players, that might not perform as well. Like the support. I do think that support is a huge weakness for them. So but their mechanics overall, of other players such as Junja, which is a world champion, Maple, which is a legend, from League of Legends. If you remember the old Flash Wolves, they were called the King Slayers, because they tend to beat teams like T1 like SKT in the past, right? So they have Maple, they have Betty, and they have Junja, who are extremely good. And this is their core. They really focus a lot on playing around their core of Junja, Betty, and Maple. Usually, you're gonna see Junja trying to fight as much as possible in the jungle, followed always, by the top laner and by their support. They always try to move together. They have a really they are very well coordinated, and in the PCS finals, they showed that even if you try to play as aggressive as possible against them, because the second seed of PCS, which is SHG right here, they are a very aggressive team, and they try to bring this aggression against the PSG, and PSG absolutely counter this aggression. Every engage that Evi tried to do, they always spaced correctly in team fights, and Evi just couldn't get the engage that they wanted. PSG managed to team fight really well, avoid all of the engages that they tried to do against them, and then come ahead, in or like come out on top on these fights. So this is a team that knows how to play the map, knows how to team fight, is well coordinated, and has really high level of mechanics. Betty probably has like Korean or Chinese level mechanics of the top players. Betty is the AD carry, by the way. We have seen what Maple is capable of doing when he is on form. He's really good. And Junja, like I mentioned, he was a world champion. Junja is by far the best player when he is on form as well. In fact, Junja could easily be playing a top Chinese team if he wanted to, but I think he prefers to play in the PCS. But overall, that player is just amazing. And this stylistically, and just in terms of level, PSG is gonna go ahead over here. So we are gonna have the MDK against PSG, which is in my eyes the worst possible matchup that you can have at Worlds. And it's not even for planes, and it's not even close, because PSG, we have seen them already eliminate the second seed of North America in the past. We have seen them go toe to toe to the first seed of China in the past. So this is a team that if they come in form, they're gonna. I think that just because they play the map so well, they will have no chance of losing against MDK, because MDK is a team that actually struggles in macro. Like I was mentioning before, we have seen this time and time again during the entire season. We have seen this even in the season finals, against G2, where G2 just ate them completely macro wise. And PSG having an equivalent macro with a huge aggression, what I think is going to happen is that if they ever get into the mid and late phases, PSG is just gonna win through macro rotations and good coordination in team fights. But in the early game, I also think that stylistically they match poorly, or like MDK match poorly against PSG, because they have a very similar style in the sense of MDK likes to prioritize ganking either Supa or Mirwin. And this means that they will usually have El Joya and Alvaro moving around with Frescoe. This is their core. They have the bot lane moving around with their mid and jungle, which is the exact same thing that PSG has. But PSG just has better players. If they are on form, we have Betty, who is, like I mentioned, an extremely good mechanical AD carry. We have Junja and Maple, who are very aggressive and really good mechanically. Like these dudes are not people who are gonna make errors. So I think in a straight up group versus group, like a 4v4, jungle mid bot lane versus jungle mid bot lane, I think PSG has the edge. So stylistically speaking, they are similar in what they want to achieve, but PSG just have better pieces and much better macro, and also in general, I think they're a better team. So I do think that PSG is going to get the win. However, it is very important to also note out that we have seen the PSG come with a very shaky preparation in Worlds. In fact, we have seen in previous years that they sometimes do not prepare well for Worlds. So this is really going to come down to how what the form that PSG is going to come for Worlds, because if they come with the best form, I think MDK has no chance of beating them, just because of a stylistic approach. You know, if it was any other team that focused less on macro movement and coordination, I think that MDK could easily have a shot. But against a team like this, I think they just stylistically speaking may not be able to beat them. But if PSG comes with a poor preparation, or MDK comes with a really good preparation, I think they will have a good shot at beating them. And we have seen also, that when MDK does not get the silence ahead, they just go around the map like headless chickens, which is their biggest issue. But we also have seen them that they are able to prepare well for matches, and they usually try to cover these macro holes, with strong picks, which is definitely not something that PSG do. PSG is a very standard team. They will not place these cheesy picks. So if MBK managed to cover these macro holes with these cheesy picks, they might be able to surprise PSG a lot. However, I will personally give the edge to PSG. This is going to be a 2-0 if they come with their best form, otherwise a 2-1 for PSG. If they don't come with good preparations or MDK manage to prepare well, however, they might have a shot, but I would just give the edge to PSG. In fact, I don't think that PSG is going to drop a single series in the playing stage. But that does not mean that MDK is out right off the back. In fact, MDK will still have to face, the other teams. So in the other bracket, we have Gigabyte Marines, which is the first seed of Vietnam, against the second seed of the PCS. And I would say that they have a very similar level. Now, Vietnam is much, much better than Vikings, which is the second seed of Vietnam. And the SAG, however, is just a step below PSG. They do not have the same level. So this is going to be a very bloodthirsty match, because both of these teams like to fight as much as possible. The only difference is that Gigabyte Marines do prioritize objectives a lot more than Vikings, similar of how SAG performs. So this could be the most or the closest match that we might see at Worlds in my eyes. Is going to be very close. They have a very similar level, and like I mentioned, both of these regions play in Korea and sometimes scrims the other teams as well. So they do have the mechanics to back them up. It is just that they prefer to prioritize fighting rather than doing macro plays. So it's definitely very different than PSG in terms of who is gonna win. Honestly, they are so similar in the playlist, in the play style, especially when you see the Vietnam finals and the PCS finals. They're basically the same team in terms of what they want to achieve. They have the same mindset, a similar level of mechanics. So I wouldn't be able to say who is gonna win for sure. So you could say that any of these teams is gonna be able, or like any of them could go through. Like I have no fucking idea, honestly. I would say that Gigabyte Marines, they have a much better history at the World, so I think that they might have the edge over the SHG. So I'm gonna put them ahead. But we have seen that PCS second seed do well in the past, right? So that is one thing to keep in mind. But in my eyes, it's just a very hard matchup to predict. I think that whoever is gonna win is probably gonna win either by a hard stomp or in a very close match. There's not gonna be in betweens. It's probably gonna be a 2-0 for whoever is gonna go through. Or a 2-1. I think 2-1 it's gonna be a much better prediction, just because they are so similar in how they play. Now, who is gonna go through? I don't really know, but we can consider them at the same level. Now, next we have the LCS third seed, which is probably gonna be 100 Thieves, or I expect it to be 100 Thieves. Now, if it is FlyQuest, then that changes everything, because I don't think it's gonna be FlyQuest, but FlyQuest is a team that plays the map really well. In fact, I think the North American teams have better macro in general than most of European teams. At least the top two have better macro than all of the rest of European teams. It's just that micro wise, that might not be up there. But if it is FlyQuest, I think then that changes everything, because if it is FlyQuest, we have seen that FlyQuest had the same level or similar level to PSG in the past, but they did improvements this year. Sorry, this last split by changing Jensen for the Korean mid laner. So that really brought a lot of life, or like a lot of potential into the team. So I think if I don't think that FlyQuest is gonna go here, because I think that FlyQuest is gonna stop 100 Thieves. But if FlyQuest is the one who's gonna come right here, then I think that they will then become the strongest team of the playing stage, because I do think that they have a really good macro, they have really good players, and definitely they're gonna stomp, the Rainbow Seven. However, if it is 100 Thieves, that is a different story, because 100 Thieves is a team that struggle on playing the map, they struggle on having consistent mechanically, or consistency in their mechanics. So and depending on who comes, that also depends on what's going to happen on the planes. But I do not think that FlyQuest is going to lose to 100 Thieves. Um, I just don't think so. So I think this we are gonna have 100 Thieves right here. I still think, just because 100 Thieves is more used to play against these higher level teams, that they will be able to beat Rainbow Seven. But then the match becomes a bit interesting right here. Now let me. Whoops, sorry for that. I just got a call in the middle of recording this. But yeah, like I was mentioning, I think that FlyQuest is gonna go directly into the group stage, and I think 100 Thieves is gonna be the one coming in here. I do think that they might be better than Rainbow Seven. The only issue, however, is that these teams right here are so aggressive that they might be able to beat. I think they might be able to put 100 Thieves in a dire situation right here, because 100 Thieves is a team that we have seen through the year that they are not able to control aggression that well. They do know how to play the map, but they don't prioritize stuff that well. But their main issue is coordination. Coordination when aggressive plays happen. So I think that uh, any of these teams might be able to beat them, but these teams don't play the map. These teams don't play the macro. They know how to, for the most part, because we have seen them do in Vietnam and in PCS, but they don't like to do it. So if these teams just try to brawl as much as possible and then they forget the macro, they will lose to 100 Thieves, and in a very convincing fashion, because 100 Thieves, after all, they are used to play against Team Liquid, which I think is one of the best, if not the best, Western teams at the moment. FlyQuest also is pretty good. It has a very solid, has had a very solid performance in summer, with the addition of their Korean mid laner, and overall. I do think that this match, of whoever wins from this, which I honestly have no idea. I'm very excited to watch this, man. I might do a watch party of this match. It's gonna be fun. And then the LCS number 3 seed versus whatever wins from this. I think that it's gonna come down on how well 100 teams is gonna be able to handle their aggression. I do think that if they fail to do so, they will lose. But if these teams, just forget to play the map, 100 Thieves is gonna win. So I will give the edge to 100 Thieves, mostly because they are used to play against FlyQuest, they are used to play against Team Liquid on a regular basis, while the others might only be able to scream the Korean and LPL teams maybe once per week at most. Even though they do it quite, they do it, quite often on a monthly basis. On a weekly basis, might not be as often as they might want. So that is the only thing, I do give the edge to 100 Thieves. That means that 100 Thieves and PSG for me are gonna go through, and that leaves, the Rainbow Seven, Brazil, Vietnam, and MDK left in my eyes. I think that whoever is gonna get the other two spots is gonna be between those. I don't think that Vikings is gonna be able to do so. So the next threat, here we have the loser bracket. So MDK comes here and they're gonna be facing against the CB LOL. I think that MDK should beat the CB LOL convincingly. Although we should never underestimate teams. We have seen Brazil put a lot of pressure, on teams even like G2 in the past. So we shall never underestimate them. But I do think that MDK is by far the most consistent team that we are sending to Worlds, in the sense of, like I mentioned, they might not get the 10 out of 10 performance that some people like Humanoid or Caps or Hansama has done, but they're always a 7 or 8. They're never bad in their mechanics. So I think just with their consistency, they will be able to go through. That leaves them to the loser of H, the loser of, I'm just trying to see, winner B, winner C. So then they're gonna face here they're crossing. Wait, I'm trying to understand what the fuck is this thing. So the loser of this, the loser of whoever loses this match, which is gonna be probably any of these two, is gonna go against Mad Lions Koi. And there is where the real issue begins. Because Mad Lions Koi is a team that focuses a lot on aggression, which all of these two teams do. The only problem is that both of these teams are way ahead of Vikings. So if how Mad Lions Koi is gonna perform depends on how they perform against Vikings. I think that their performance against Vikings is gonna set the standard for the entire play-ins. If they manage to beat Vikings convincingly, I think they have a shot at also beating convincingly SAG or Gigabyte Marines. That is at the very least my thought. I think this could be the most dangerous match that they will be facing. If they face 100 Thieves, however, I do think that 100 Thieves could. This is my way of thinking. I think that any of these two are more dangerous than 100 Thieves, mostly because 100 Thieves have shown that they cannot handle aggression, but they can play the map. But Mad Lions Koi can also play as aggressive as these two, but they can play the map as well in the early game. So if they get a lead, because 100 Thieves are not able to. Okay, let me restart that, because that I was not going nowhere. So basically, 100 Thieves is a team that struggles on controlling aggression, and these two teams, however, they are like these two teams are very aggressive, but they tend to forget, or they tend to ignore macro plays. This team, 100 Thieves, it's a team that knows how to play the map, at the very least at the basic level, for a world's level, I mean. So if they decide to just straight up ignore the map, 100 Thieves can win. But if they manage to lose against any of this team, I think that Mad Lions Koi has the edge, because Mad Lions Koi is a team that they don't really know how to play the map in the later stages, but they always move from objective to objective together, doing aggressive plays. So it's not that they are ignoring the map; they just do not know what the best rotation is, right? It's not like these two. Like these two will just straight up tell you, "Hey, there is a dragon. I don't care. I'm gonna fight." But Mad Lions Koi, what they say usually is, "Oh, there is a dragon, but I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's bad. Is it better than a Herald?" Like they tend to get stuck in their own heads, but they will still try to go in and fight and contest the Baron. The Dragon or Herald or Baron or whatever, right? So I do think that if 100 Thieves was to go through, I think that Mad Lions Koi has the edge. I do think that these two could be more dangerous, because they are just as aggressive as MDK, but they are more used to this aggression, because in Europe, most people do not know how to play the early game. Even G2, we have seen them just lose almost every single early game out there. But these two do focus a lot on playing the early game, do focus a lot on just keeping their aggression through mid lane, to mid game and later stages. And Mad Lions Co just does not have the macro in mid and late, to be able to carry effectively against any of these teams. So I think this is going to be a huge threat against them. But I think that this is a team that also brings a lot of cheesy picks. They are able to prepare well, and just with good preparation, I will give them the edge, and they will be able to advance. In the other side, though, we do have who is it right here? So the losers of C. No, wait. Losers of C. No, so MDK is gonna be here against F and. Oh no, so yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. So that is what I think, right? They will struggle against any of these two, but I do think that they can go through because they are a team that has shown that they can prepare well, and if they can cook, they will be able to beat any of these two. Not in a convincing fashion though, but in a more like a 2-1 type of things, right? At least that is my opinion after watching the regions themselves. But we have seen Mad Lions also not be able to go through the planes in the past, so that could be something to keep in mind. But the second team, I think the ones who are gonna go through is gonna be PSG, first seed of an A, any of these two, and Mad Lions Koi. That is my. I just consider that these two are the same team, like basically the same thing in terms of their aggression and level, man. So any of these two is gonna go through first seed of an A, MDK and PSG. However, do not underestimate anyone. We have seen, that that LLA, like Latin America, has been able to put even G2 in struggle in the past. We have seen the Brazil put the teams to struggle in the past. We have seen Gigabyte Marine straight up beat G2 in the past, and we have seen also, the second seed of PCS go through in group stage, in the past. So do not underestimate anyone. I do think that MDK has very high chances of going through, but no one should be underestimated whatsoever. We are here, and you need to bring your A game, because if you don't, if you're coming with the mentality of, oh, we are just better than this, you're gonna get destroyed in group stage. It doesn't matter how well you do in play-ins, you're gonna get destroyed in group stage, because in group stage, people do not underestimate you. They will bring their A game if they can. We have seen that a lot of times teams have internal problems or preparation problems, and they are not gonna be, or perhaps even health problems. We have seen this a lot with Deft, especially. Deft has had a lot of health problems in the past. So sometimes they might not be at their peak form, but they're gonna come with the best form that they can have at that specific time. They're not gonna underestimate you. They're gonna try to win as much as possible. So you need to bring this mentality as well. And I think MDK is a team that 1000% has shown that they underestimate their opponents. They do not respect their opponents. They always think that they're better. And I think this is not the mentality that you need to have. You need to come with the mindset of, we need to prepare, because every match is a finals. Otherwise, you're gonna get destroyed by PSG. You're gonna get destroyed by any of this team as well, if you come with the mindset that you're just straight up better than everyone else. Because we already saw this happen in the past to Mad Lions Koi. Not to Mad Lions Koi, to Mad Lions in the past, So this is just my opinion. I think you need to come with the mindset of every game is a finals, and you need to approach it as it is. Do not think that you're better than your opponents. Even if you do think that, do not act as if you were better. Act as if you were equal, because that will allow you to prepare for someone who is gonna try their absolute best to beat you. That is the best mindset you can have. I do think that Myron Square is gonna go through. I do think that they are gonna have a good performance in the play-ins. But after all, anything could happen. All of these teams are dangerous if they're not respected. We have seen this in the past. In fact, G2 especially is a team that has lost to Gigabyte Marines in the past. Same for Fnatic, just because they don't respect this team. And then they come in and they sweep you. Like, you must respect every opponent. Because otherwise, you're not going to beat them. I do think it's almost impossible for them to not go through, though, because we have 4 teams who go through. One is guaranteed to be PSG, the other is going to be 100 Thieves, probably. So that leaves a spot, all you need to do is beat Vietnam or the second seed of PCS, or the other wildcard teams, and I think you're going to have a shot. It's really hard to not go through. I think they're going to be able to do so, but only if they come with the right mindset. That's it for me, though. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you on the next one. Peace.